Yo, what's good, y'all? It is your man, Jermaine Showtime Stone, a.k.a. the Wolf of Wine, a.k.a. the Zara Vibes, a.k.a. Young Thanos. So I'm just out here collecting Infinity Stones. I'm chilling with two women who have some Infinity Stones of their own. I'm with Andrea and Robin McBride. Thank you for thank you for having me in your home.
Like, thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming through. Incredibly honored. You know, up here in the Yay area, I gotta, holler at. Every time I come into a city, I try to make sure to link up with the people that run the town, and all roads.
Welcome to the Bay.
Yeah, welcome to the Bay for sure.
Glad to be out. I mean, I don't even know where to start because I feel like as soon as you guys came on the scene, there was just this, everyone was just so wrapped up in your story, It's really like something out of a storybook almost. Like, what was that moment like when you first became aware of each other?
Our story is definitely not normal, and mine for sure. We became aware of each other at different times, but I'll speak for myself, when I first became aware of Andrea and that I had a sister, I learned about her through our father's family, who I didn't have a relationship with our dad, and they let me know that I had a little sister in New Zealand. I don't have any other siblings, so I had a little sister in New Zealand, and I was like, one, where's New Zealand?
Yeah.
And two, how did I get a sister down there? But it definitely was life-changing for me. I didn't have siblings. I didn't have a relationship with our dad. And finding out that I had a sister was kind of something I always, in the back of my mind was like, maybe, my dad had another child somewhere.
You felt that?
Yeah,
Wow.
for sure, because I didn't grow up knowing him. So I knew that there was a chance that he had more children somewhere. But for like a lot of only children, I think you always wish you had a sibling, right? So when I learned about her, I was very excited, and it changed my life. It changed my perspective on myself. I'm no longer an only child. Now I'm a sister. I have a sister. And for me, I found out about her, that she existed, and met her in person within a couple of days. It all happened super fast.
And you were in New Zealand at the time?
So when she found out about me, I was visiting our dad's family in Alabama. I was in Camden, Alabama, and Robin received this letter. She was in Atlanta, Georgia. And, our auntie picked up the phone. Robin called, received a letter. There was a number saying, please call us. She called it. And it just happened that I was visiting from New Zealand.
That's crazy.
Bottom of the
Dad was like, yo, I need a favor. Yeah, get them
pretty
together.
Much.
Yeah, pretty. And normally at the bottom of the Southern Hemisphere, I was sitting in my auntie's living room in Alabama, and we connected. And then the next day, we had family in New York, and I was flying into LaGuardia, and Robin jumped on a plane from Atlanta to LaGuardia.
I'll meet you there.
Yeah. And that was January of 1999.
Wow, that's crazy. So, and you're both from separate areas in the world. Did you expect to get in the wine industry?
No.
Interestingly enough, you're also from two places that there's a serious home for wine.
Well, ultimately, that's what we had to get into.
We hustled. We
saw that. But I think independently, even though we both came from wine growing regions, independently, we were not we're going to get into the wine industry or we're going to be winemakers. I don't think that ever really was a serious thought for either of us.
No.
But when we met each other and we, Andrea came to Monterey, I went to New Zealand. They are eerily similar.
Wow.
It's scary.
So you haven't been to New Zealand yet.
We're going to take you.
We're going to take you.
We're going to take you.
You're coming with us, but you'll see it is so strikingly similar to the Central Coast of California and the wine growing region. And so it was just kind of a series of things, I think, for us that was wait a minute, what are the chances that we both grew up in really, independently, really similar places? Both of the places are, had become prominent wine growing regions. Andrea's uncle, her mom's brother, was a grape grower. So just as we got to know each other, as we started to build our relationship, we started to understand more and more that we have this really common tie that revolves around wine region, winemaking. and ultimately it felt like something we couldn't really ignore.
That's
So much
crazy.
of our story is like, you know, just about things that are meant to be, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever, no matter what we thought or what we planned, there's these things that just hit us in the face that we can't ignore, and ultimately it's what led us to creating a wine company together.
Yeah, and from a wine perspective, both coastal, oceanic, cool climate,
Right.
growing regions. So it was like, you know,
Wow.
we got to
Yeah.
do this.
That
Yeah.
is crazy. I mean,
It
it's,
chose us.
Yeah.
Let's put it that
but
way.
even still, you know, you think about, you know, with seeing the synergies in the areas, like, it's not even like at that time there was a ton of black people jumping into the wine business.
Yeah.
You know, what was it that was really the catalyst? Like, yo, we're qualified to do this, and I know that we can be successful. What was it that you saw that told you that?
We weren't qualified.
I think a part of our DNA makes us feel like we were born and qualified to do whatever we put our mind to.
Yeah.
If I'm keeping it 100,
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that, you know, when we met, I was 16, Robin was 25. After we met, I went back to New Zealand, and then I came back to America for university, and I was in Southern California. Robin was in Monterey, and we would drive and we would meet each other like halfway. That puts you right in at the very bottom of Central Coast of Santa Barbara, you know, wine growing regions, and we were just really getting to know each other as women and sisters, you know, but found ourselves in this backdrop of tasting rooms of wine ag and, you know, going into those situations and like, we are hauntingly obsessed with wine. This is like our passion. And then, but going into those situations and just feeling like we could tweak it a little bit, like we could add some music in the background, you know what I'm saying? Like the experience we felt like, you know, maybe wasn't necessarily meant for us.
Right.
And so I think that was probably like the point where we were like, we know a lot of people that would really love this experience. And
As we envision it.
through our lens, right? Through our rosé colored glasses.
Yeah.
And that was really the catalyst, is like, how can we like make this amazing experience that combines culture and history and gathering and food and obviously an amazing liquid, right? With a lot of people.
Right. Oh man, that's amazing. I can't even imagine, like, with family so often. I hang out. I have 5 brothers and sisters.
Oh wow.
You know, so I hang out with them, and I see all of these similar characteristics in each of us, but we're all like really different.
Yeah.
And I hear stories about my grandfather and all these people who we share a family lineage, but we've never met. Yet still, we have all these like eerie similarities. Like,
Right.
so I can't even imagine what that's like when you were just getting to know one another and really thinking through and identifying those things, but also, you know, at the end of the day, a good partnership is about balance.
Right.
You know, and you're 2 completely different individuals. So with that, while you were getting to know one another, what was it that said, okay, we'll be good partners? Because good partners, you can't both be good at the same things.
Right.
You each have
That's
to have
right.
your strengths.
We complement each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
where does that complement come together?
Well, I think, I mean, we're very fortunate in that it works, and that our strengths complement each other. We didn't really know that up front.
We can't say that we went into it like,
Yeah,
I'm good
like, what
at this,
are your
you're good.
strengths?
Yeah,
Like-
wait, we didn't go in.
She's great at sales.
Yeah,
When
no.
we started our business, she was a junior in college still, right? So like
Right.
professionally, like she didn't have a bunch of.
She's saying politely that I didn't have a lot to offer, basically. I was young, I had a lot of energy, you know.
She didn't have a lot of professional experience
Right.
per se.
She had gumption.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's exactly right. She had tenacity. But so we learned as we started our business where her strengths are, where my strengths are. And fortunately for us, we'd say we're puzzle pieces. Like we're just very lucky that, you know, our individual personalities and where we excel aligns with each other, and we pick up, you know, on our strengths and weaknesses together. That's not always the case.
Right.
Obviously, like siblings, we talk to a lot of people, we mentor a lot of people, and we take a lot of calls from folks who are like, I'm trying to get this business together, entrepreneurs, talk about family businesses, and we're like, well, you know, you kind of can't really use us as a good example. One,
Because we're kind of perfect.
we're kind of perfect.
A bit of an anomaly.
We're so perfectly aligned, but also because we didn't grow up together, we don't have a lot of like background baggage. We're not like bringing a lot of like, you know, historical mess.
Like mommy was your favorite.
Yeah,
Like,
have
you know.
that. So we really, our relationship as sisters developed while we were building our business together. So I know, you know, for a lot of families, the challenges is like you're already bringing animosity to the table. You're already bringing like past,
A little baggage.
like, problems.
Yeah.
And we're just so grateful to have each other as sisters. We don't take it for granted at all. We don't bring, you know, trivial things
Right.
to the table in our relationship as sisters and as business partners. And then combined with that, we just, you know, are blessed with the fact that we are so complementary to each other across all really aspects of our business that it works for us, which is it's just not the case for everybody.
It is not.
Right?
It is not customary. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes you pick partners and then they don't be the right partners.
Yeah.
You find that out later.
Right. We
Wow.
were assigned.
Yeah.
Nah, seriously,
Yeah.
like this is really one of those things where I'm a firm believer. Like right now, I feel like I'm in the spot I'm supposed to be.
Right,
You know, I'm being as much of myself is all raw, no cut for me. You know, it's like I'm being as much of myself as possible. Like, and with that, not everyone finds where they're supposed to be in life and do the things that they are supposed to do. Everything about what you guys are doing is just like kismet. That y'all
is.
kismet.
Yeah,
Straight me down. You're
is.
the definition of kismet.
We are constantly, and we always are grateful and full of gratitude for that.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But you know, it's wine and hip hop, so I have to ask.
Okay.
You know, I ask every guest on the show if you could pick any rapper, any hip hop artist specifically
Okay.
that fits your style, your persona, your energy, who would that artist be? Well, start with you, Robin.
I know. I don't know if it's going to be the same answer.
I hope not. I hope we don't like say the
Well,
same
you
thing.
never know. See, that's one of the things that's wild
You
about
never
us
know.
is that we think the same.
Y'all still surprise each other at this
We
point?
do. We do. We really do. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would probably say Missy Elliott.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I feel like Missy will rock this.
I feel like she might.
Yeah,
She might.
Through.
yeah.
Just because, like, personally, I think she's genius, but I think that she brings an element of surprise. I think, like, she's multi-talented, obviously. She, like, she's just so talented and she spans, you know, all across the industry. But I think that also surprises people. And I feel like we and our wines often also surprise people. They don't expect kind of the level of what we produce and what we provide. So I feel like there's kind of sort of an alignment there. Not saying like we're geniuses necessarily, but I think just the fact that we approach things differently and we're not afraid to put things out in an unconventional way, and then people are surprised and delighted by what we've created and how they like experience wine.
And I think specifically for you and for Missy cannot be replicated or duplicated.
Ooh.
Hey.
You know what I should have did? I messed up. I should have asked, who do you think Andrea's spirit animal is? And who does she think yours is? That's what I should have asked. But we asked it one way already.
Yeah,
so
okay,
I ain't gonna
okay,
put you in
okay,
at the start.
Okay. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. So
We can answer that. We can ask that. We could go there next, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So for me, I think, and because I just poured this Santa Lucia Highlands Pinot Noir, it's giving me kind of a little connection or vibe. I'm gonna go with, and we share the same birthday.
Ooh.
The only Christopher we acknowledge as
Oh,
well.
okay.
ooh,
Oh, y'all have the same birthday.
wow.
And so, and I'm not even gonna get close to spit any type of bars. So I will like,
I mean,
like
the delivery of that bar was pretty fire. Like that was a pretty fire bar. You don't even need to.
But I think, you know, you could be as good as the best of them, but as bad as the worst. Don't test me. Get money. You better move over.
That's fire. No, that's dope. Oh gosh, I can see that.
Okay.
You know, the funny thing is, You got the Missy vibes right
Yeah,
now. And the bar delivery just now was very, very Biggie-esque.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
Big, I like Big because Big's in my top 5 also.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, I was a Missy addict. in
Really?
98. Like,
Right.
addicted. That whole Super Friends flow.
Oh
I
my
had
goodness,
every,
yes.
right?
every
Yes.
Timbaland, Magoo, Genuine.
Yes.
I had
Yes.
everybody's
All of
album.
those.
Like, I was on all of it.
Yeah.
But Biggie, he's an ill artist to me because like his metaphors are so great,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
the way that he delivers them, you know how sometimes the artist will know they're saying something dope and like put a huge amount of emphasis on it. Biggie will say it and just smooth and cool, and
Yes.
you'll get it. You'll get different lines every time you
Later,
listen to it,
yeah.
just because of how smooth he delivered it, and you just appreciate it that much more. That's what you just dropped right there.
So that's a really good segue into Pinot Noir that is like very smooth.
You know, you
Yeah.
say,
You know what I'm saying?
I'm out.
And-
You know exactly what I was
And the name of this wine is Cocky Motherfucker. So you know what I'm saying? I feel like we vibing right now. You know what I'm saying?
That's what. But you know what? That's a perfect example of the amazing branding you guys do. I think that another reason that you're so successful is the brands are so on point, and there's so much to it. It's not just a great name like Black Girl Magic. You know, it's not just, oh, Cocky Motherfucker. What is that? Like, first of all, the wine's named Cocky Motherfucker. Let's just stop right there.
really is.
Stop, process that, and move on.
Yeah.
But you know, it's
there's a
not-
reason.
That's the thing. I'm just like, I'm excited to hear, you know, like where did you come up with the name for Cocky Motherfucker?
Well, so it is, the wine is an homage to our father, to our shared dad. And you'll see like from the inception of all of the wines that we make, we created our own family crest, because that's what you do when you start a business with your newfound sister. So our family crest consists of 2 lionesses that represent each of our mothers who are supporting us from each side. And then a peacock in the center, which is representative of our dad, right? Because he was known to be cocky. So you'll see all of these elements, we pull on them in different ways, and all of our different brands, all of our different wines. Our reserve wines are illustrative depictions of moments of our story, right? So like we have 8 or so reserve wines, all of them are kind of like an illustration of some part of our story. This one we dedicated to our dad, so it's a big, drawing of a peacock. Each vintage we do like a little tweak to it. But he was a cocky motherfucker. So the peacock has an afro.
I'm afraid to know what my children are gonna name my wine.
I mean, you just have to you just have to go with it. But it's like the peacock has an afro. This vintage, he has a gold chain. There's a vintage where he has like a little power pick in his hair. And we just weren't afraid. People were like, you can't name a wine that.
Watch us.
Yeah, and they're like, don't say we can't. Yeah, we can very much, and we did, and we will. So it's just, but it's like you talk about like the meaning behind all these things. It's not random. We're not like, oh, this would be a catchy name. Like it very much goes back to our story, to our father, his personality, his lineage. It ties back to all of our brands, how we incorporated him and our mothers into our crest. So there's people will tell us a lot of times like, oh, you guys are like great branders, you make great brands. It's like we don't really set out to say like, oh, what is a good or like a catchy brand. It's all very much tied to our experience and to our story and what we're trying to express with like any given wine.
Yeah, and this, so 2009 was the first vintage that we made wine together. The first vintage that we made, Santa Lucia Pinot Noir, was 2019. So, we had 10 vintages under our belt. So we felt like it was time. We felt like we were ready, technically, our wine team, to like create something really incredibly beautiful. And a lot of times, in the commercialization of the business, sometimes you can feel like you have to make wine a certain way. And so for us, it was like, nah, like we got like 10 vintages under our belt. We're going to do it how we want to do it. And so we did that. And then that's why it was like inspired by Cocky Motherfucker. Like we're going to be extra confident because we feel good. We know who we are.
I love it.
We feel real good, and this is what we're giving you.
Good name. Reasonably. Well, cheers, man. Cheers. Cheers to all the cocky motherfuckers in the world, man. I mean, honestly, it's interesting because that makes me want to buy it that much more. And I think that's why good branding is important, and especially when you're talking about expression. The truest expression is always the best one,
right.
you know, and that's why what I think has a biggest part to do with the success is that honesty is always the best policy, and you don't have to sell when you're just telling people what it is.
Right.
You know, that is really cool. It has to come from somewhere. But what it really feels like the brands kind of just come to you. You know,
they do very much.
You mentioned like I feel like it's more so the expression first and then thinking about, all right, how do we do that? Like when you came in, did you intend to create several different lines, or was it always like what made you say, all right, let's do one more, all right, let's do another one? Like where did that come from?
I think it is like, you know, at our core, you know, loving wine, the history of wine, yes, of course, terroir is important and place and all these different things, but how we really are inspired is, you know, when we're going through harvest, we're really thinking about like, you know, tasting the grapes, tasting the berries, but really thinking about like what is the context of what's happening right now in the world, what is the context of who we imagine is going to enjoy this wine. And so it's like all of these things coming together, so there isn't like one very like clear path we're going to like make this brand and make this brand. It really is a culmination of just where we are in that moment, and like maybe having a lot of experiences from different times of our life, and then just connecting the dots and the stars to that moment, and then really thinking about like who we're serving and like how we can just make a really amazing experience for them by themselves, or they just want to have a beautiful glass by themselves, or they're people or a party or like whatever it is. I know this is a long answer, but it's not like it really is like a moment, you know, and then we are usually aligned to that moment in a very scary way.
I was gonna say it's actually very intuitive.
Yeah.
So it's not like we as, you know, winery owner, like wine producers, like we don't have like brand exercises. We don't like go through. We don't go through like a strategic.
All right, guys, it's January.
Yeah. We don't have like strategic like meetings on like what are we gonna call this. It's very much, you know, me and Andrea go through year to year through the evolution of our business. Like it's all based on our experiences. So it's just very intuitive, and a lot of times like we can communicate without speaking, which our staff hates. But you know, it comes from within us and our experiences, and it's not like a strategic or intentional brand play necessarily, because we feel like we're making our goal and our mission is to make like amazing wines, right? So like we start with that, like what we call it, how we name it, how we communicate, like the story behind it is almost like, I don't want to say spiritual, but it's like very like intuitive to us. Like we don't even really need to discuss it, to be honest, which is kind of like weird and creepy to people, but you know, that's how we do it. That's how we do it.
So
then we inform people like this is what it is. This is where we're going. And they're like, okay, this is what we're doing.
So one day you call Andrea like, yo, Cocky Motherfucker.
Yeah.
The Pinot Noir. Yes, we're doing it. Is that how?
Very much. So we have a team here that can speak to that. Yeah. We'll be like, we'll be like, you know what? And she'll be like, yup. And I'll be like, bet. And like, people are like, can you tell us what we're talking about right here? But we've made a whole decision.
So can you, and especially because you have so many people that look up to you business-wise and want to really just understand how to do what you do, right? So can you take me through the moment of the idea and where the idea starts, and then how it goes from there? Like, what does the entire process look like?
So I think for...
I'm glad you have an answer.
No, I do. It's a big question.
Yeah.
So I think and I'm going to simplify it down.
Okay.
But I think at the center of everything is our purpose, and we think about like the strategy is the purpose. You know, the purpose is the strategy. Those two things are in lockstep, and so and that's our North Star. And it goes just back to like, how can we make wine accessible to everybody? And how can we bring more people into wine? And then, you know, as people are going through their wine journey, like what can we offer them that's, you know, different? and then somehow align that with our passions and what we want to make and what we want to do. And so I think because the business is not easy, you know, and so I think a big part of, you know, where we are today is that you're going to go through all these crazy ups and turns, and entrepreneurialism is like a roller coaster, but we've always had a really strong North Star. So in the hardest times, like we believe in it so much, you know, that gets us through those hard times. And then when times are good, like it just reinforces the purpose and the strategy. We're doing the right thing.
Look,
you know. And so I think that for people that are thinking about getting into entrepreneurialism, whatever industry it is in, is, you know, it's going to be hard if the motivation is money. You know, it's going to be hard if the motivation is like you have a chip on your shoulder and you're trying to prove somebody wrong. Like,
or if it's fame.
Yeah, or if it's fame.
Yeah.
You know, you really have to get into this because this is your passion, and you have to have a greater purpose that is beyond yourself.
Absolutely.
As an individual.
No, that is so true. I always say you got to do it for the intention, not the attention.
Right.
You know,
Yes,
and
that's
it's just
real.
Right.
and
That's
so like you mentioned, when there's so many points in the process that you want to stop, and obviously I have to give myself a lot of self-motivation.
Yeah.
But like another thing I say is like whenever you feel like stopping, remember why you started.
Right.
And you'll
It's the
never,
why.
you
It's
know,
the why.
like that is going to constantly just push you
And
along.
you have to be solid. Like, is your why, are you willing to pursue your why, whether you're making money or not? Because as an entrepreneurial venture,
Yeah.
there is a time when you're starting up, and maybe even later.
Oh yeah. Everybody getting paid first.
Right, exactly. It's like, you know, it comes time for paying for grapes or payroll or whatever it is. Sometimes you are not getting that money, right? But like what has to drive you is the reason, the purpose, the vision that got you started in the first place. If your reason for being in whatever space you're in is not strong enough to like withstand those moments, it's not the right place for you. You're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
If you are not motivated by this interview, you just don't. Like, just get back in bed, go to the ride or something. Who's
Okay.
your motivational?
Okay.
Who's the motivation? You know,
That's very different.
It
picks
is.
you up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are in the Yay area,
Oh,
you know,
oof.
so we definitely have to lead with E40.
Fact.
And
Shout out to the GOAT.
and specifically, I think for Black women, you know, there's multiple layers of things that like you encounter every day that you have to work through, and so you have to remind yourself of that Black girl magic.
Yeah.
That you have inherently that has been passed down generationally. So I think my song would be from 40, shout out to Earl, would be My Shit Bang.
Oof.
Okay.
You just gotta remind yourself about who you are
Yeah.
and the lineage that you came from.
Love it. More of that Brandon talk. She
Yeah.
talking that fly talk. She talking that BIG shit.
My sister was just a little bit more thug than I am.
I don't know.
No, I'm very much like, you know, like the Zen sister. So is it like, we're talking about hip hop,
She is.
rap?
Right.
So it's a little more hip hop-ish, but I feel like for me, like it's like most stuff is in this particular song, which I don't know, like, you know, people who are like hip hop heads, rappers might not like, you know, I don't categorize it that way.
So Yasin Bey now, right?
Well, I don't know. I think he was most Def then. I don't know. Maybe he was Yasin Bey. I don't know. But for like Umi Says, because I'm like, I just want my people to be free, right? So like that's what we're working towards. That's why we're doing what we're doing. We want people to be, and Black people and all people to feel that they have a place in this space in wine, and to be able to be entrepreneurs, come into this space unburdened, unshackled, and to be successful. And so like everything that we're doing is we're trying to prove that that's possible. And so for me, that's the one that kind of like writes me. We talked a little bit earlier, like I'm petty, right? So
We were
I'm
talking
like,
about how petty we were. I ain't gonna just leave you out there in the petty game.
sometimes we're a little petty, but that like helps me right myself, right? So I'm like, okay, leave the pettiness behind. This person said this, this thing, or they're trying to stop us from being great, whatever.
Right.
But just brings me back to like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah.
So I gotta say, man, like there are times when have these conversations, and I'm just glad that the cameras are on. It's like, I mean, people give perfect answers sometimes, but I could not break that down in that way. If I was hit with that, I couldn't break that.
Oh, okay.
But that was amazing also because you guys gave such different energy and equally great for different reasons.
Which I feel like it really speaks to our personality and our relationship. It's like our goals, she's laughing, our goals and our visions are exactly the same, right? But like our personalities like approach it
in different ways.
Yeah. So
more than one way to skin a cat.
Wait, that's
but
right.
But that said, like what female executives inspire you? You know, I feel like there's so many people that are inspired by you. Like who inspires you on an executive level?
Well, from a business standpoint,
There's some goats, right?
there's some goats.
Yeah.
For me, I really have two, which is I like me a Mughal. So, and in that bucket, I put Oprah and Martha Stewart. I feel like people laugh at me about Martha Stewart. Like, first of all, she's not a snitch. But second of all,
Hey.
there's a reason.
She stood tall.
Right.
She stood tall.
There's
That's
a reason her and Snoop have,
Yeah.
like a good relationship. But just also in terms of like omni-channel brand building, like multiple products, multiple, from media to home products to cooking to wine to all of the things. And I feel like both of them kind of fit in that category. And I feel like I look at ourselves in that same way. Like we're obviously, passionate about wine. This is our business, but we feel like we also like breach that, right? Into like other areas of experience, consumer goods, all of the things. So I kind of always think about both of them in that way when I, the long-term vision or like opportunities, like we can be anything we want, right? We can touch this space, we can create content, we can do whatever it is. And I feel like both of them obviously over, 30 or 40 years or however long they've been doing this, except for like a slight prison stint. I don't want that. Except for that, I feel like that's very much I find it very aspirational, and inspirational to look at those two and women, right, who repeatedly people try to put them in their place, right? As a Black woman, as a businesswoman, constantly in a place where you can't do that. We're gonna put you over here. This is not a space for you. You can't be successful over here. And they succeeded despite all of that. So I find inspiration in it.
On like a different level.
On a different level.
I mean, that's crazy. How you feel, Auntie?
Oh, it's okay. So I'm trying to think of something because those would be my answers.
Yeah.
But I think in business, a facilitator of the arts, who's an executive, a woman by the name of Alana Mayo. She's a president of Arion Studios, big Hollywood studio production, and she really is a steward to Black creative people and stories. Like, she helped steward the movie Till.
Wow.
And so to me that's inspiring because that's like another example of beyond yourself and being able to cut like a path and a road for other people, and also importantly telling our history and our stories,
right?
So I have a lot of love and respect, and shout out to Alana.
I like that. It's real though, and even to look at it from that perspective, I feel like people never necessarily they think about the challenges. Everyone, it's really easy to point to your success, but no one thinks about the fact that there's challenges in life. Like life is a challenge, period. Like there's challenge getting here, all types of shit.
Nothing is easy.
Like what was some of the serious challenges that hit you guys coming up and putting everything together?
I think that there's a long list.
I know.
One that we can talk about that stands out.
But just know, whatever she's about to say, it is.
She just gave me the look too, by the way.
I know. I was like,
older sister.
Don't wanna communicate.
Yeah. She
I
was
was
like,
look, just know that there are a series of dramatic challenges from day one, and they continue to this day. So there is no point in business where you are not challenged, and particularly being women and Black women in probably any space, it is continuous. So. And
so now she just
I'm
gave me
like-
that. She just gave me that, and
I
now
give
you
her
can
the tap.
speak.
I give her the tap.
Definitely.
Now you can speak. So I think that, when you're starting something, you're incredibly passionate. You are the creator. You are the person. I think one of the things that I've learned over time is, you can have the vision, but it takes a village. It literally takes a village of people, and making sure that you find people that align to your values and align to the vision of the company, and being humble enough to say, hiring somebody that might be better, more specialized than you, that can take your vision to like the next level. And so I think humbly for me, it is the challenge of you are who you are. You can create something like super dope, but really to like maximize it and take it to a level, to the moon, and beyond. You really need a village, an awesome team, and without it, it's really not possible, you know. And so I would say like one of the biggest challenges is like you move at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And it's like being able to invest, find those people, recruit those people, is always a thing.
Like finding the expertise, right?
Yeah.
Because every stage, and particularly for like entrepreneur founders,
Yeah.
there's a certain phase of your startup, of your business growth, where we are in control of everything.
Yeah.
Touch everything, nothing happens if it's literally not us doing that. And of course, with success, the size of your business, your teams, all of the things expands, and every phase of business is a place that we haven't yet been.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like with success, okay,
Yeah.
we moved into this next
You now have to relearn
territory.
the brand
Right.
new job.
So it's like you have to be, there's a certain level of like
Humility,
that you
yeah.
have to be able to acknowledge, okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know, but I'm assuming that there's things that I don't know because me and her have not yet been here, right? So who does know? Who can we, bring into our team, or who can we, solicit advice or whatever it is from to help us like be successful in this next stage? And because we've been fortunate that our business has, grown year over year and gone forward, we're kind of encountering those like clips kind of fast.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh, we'll be in this stage, we'll do a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan, and in 18 months.
You're past that.
We're past that, right? So it's like the resources or the staff or, the expertise that we've engaged for that stage, we're already at the next stage, right? So, but it takes us as founders being able to acknowledge, okay, like we're here now. We need that. We don't have it, right? We need that expertise from a business perspective to help us like navigate this next phase in order to get to the next phase.
And look, I just told you, like, my wine is Cocky Motherfucker, Biggie's my, so I'm saying humbly, because I think that, I come with it and I can do all of it. And I think
She does think she can do it.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, your gut intuition is like what got you there. It's still incredibly important, but you need to surround yourself.
You can't let ego
That's right.
like get in the way of the success of the business, right? And the evolution.
No, that is so true. It's funny. I was gonna ask you guys, what advice do you have for people that are in business and coming up? But like you just answered the question that I had for myself. Like more, not because honestly, like really, this Times article came out the other day, and like everything,
Everybody,
it just put it into hyperspeed, and I did not think that was going to come from it. I was just like, okay, this is going to be good press, and this will highlight these other things that I'm doing. And it just like you said, like I had plans for like 5 years, and now every opportunity for everything that I had, and so it's like now picking and choosing and trying to look at that. But the fact that you're like, yo, lock in focus on the team, I'm gonna take your advice.
Please do.
And a big
put the ego aside.
Oh
Because,
yeah.
you know,
No,
and
my
we
ego
all
is
have
checked
an ego.
daily.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
and a big part of it too is like, you know, there's going to be a lot of things that you have to say no to.
Yeah.
You know,
That's one of the hardest
that's
things.
the hardest thing
Because
Yeah.
as like entrepreneurs,
You see it.
You are innately.
All you see is the angles.
You're innately opportunistic. It's synonymous with being an entrepreneur. You're opportunistic. You see opportunities. You seek them out. Saying no to every opportunity
It's
is
really
very
hard.
difficult.
Yeah, and then
Very,
also,
very
especially
difficult.
when it's something that you've wanted to do for
Yeah.
such a long time, but it's
Yeah.
just like there's only 24 hours.
It's the
in a
problem. We only got 20. We
Day. I
were
just
only
need a bigger
assigned
team.
24
Look,
hours a
y'all
day.
watching the interview, man. Come on, your boy.
He needs team members, okay?
I can't pay much, but you'll have a lot of fun.
It'll be a great experience.
But you
guaranteed.
have to remember it's a long game, and you got to
Right.
play 3-dimensional chess, right? And you just have to know that like you have confidence in yourself, and if you're really bringing something of value, there's no rush.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
that
it's
is
hard
true.
for entrepreneurs to like.
What advice do you have for everyone that's looking up to you and just saying, I want to do that?
I feel like it's some of the things that we just already spoke
yeah.
about, right? So it's like your vision. You have to determine what it is that you're building your business around and your aspirations around. Is your vision? Are you passionate enough about your vision to do it if you don't get paid tomorrow, right? Or potentially anytime in the future, because that passion and that vision that you have at times will have to be the thing that fuels you to get up in the morning and do the thing, right? You may not have that monetary compensation at all times. It's up, it's down, and I think that a lot of people think about new ventures, you know, startup world or entrepreneurialism based on a lot. I talk about this a lot because I'm like that, like TED Talk made up like founder story is not reality. It's not reality. Like almost nobody has, oh, I came up with this a great idea, and then somebody funded me $50 million, and then look, I've got on Tuesday,
Right.
you
Doesn't work that way.
Especially minorities.
especially
Facts.
minorities and especially Black women, the least funded, you know, but the highest level of entrepreneurs and of business owners. So those are cute TED Talks, right? But that's not the reality.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. It makes for a nice, like, little stage presentation. But the reality is you're going to have these ups and downs. And you need to make sure that whatever it is that you're pursuing, you are actually and literally passionate about, and that passion can fuel you to
Right.
keep going
That's-
during those downtimes.
Yeah, and I would say like I would like challenge everybody. I think, you know, Instagram has not helped the world because people
Right.
just think that, you know, you bowl and you do all this stuff like overnight, and that's not how it works. And let me actually so I don't like bring Jay-Z back into this.
Okay, all
You know,
right.
Straight boss man.
why in the hip hop? But I think it is like, in order to be successful, like you have to care about it more than anybody else, like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the genius, I think for the three of us, is not giving up. Like we're here,
Right.
we're here where we are. To quote, you know, Sean Carter, is like, we didn't give up. You know,
That's
we
true.
loved it so much. We had the purpose, we had the North Star, you know, and it's a marathon.
Yeah.
It is a marathon.
That is so true, man. I mean, speaking of marathon, but no, but like I feel like, especially on that, you know, you think about people that jump out and want to do something and not quite think about things all the way through, not necessarily have to follow through. I feel like there were a lot of people that had great intentions in 2020, like after George Floyd was murdered.
Right.
There was a huge, everybody support the Black community, put your Black square up, you know, but it, of course, and I don't think people were like disingenuous when they did that, but it's
At the
just like,
time.
you know, the energy's gone.
Yeah.
Now what is it? You know, but first I want to actually pour some Black Girl Magic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think this is the right wine for this topic.
Yes, it is. Yeah. That's true.
So this is Black Girl Magic Riesling, which is the first wine that we launched with the Black Girl Magic collection in 2018.
Yes. Inspired by some of the wines that we love in the old world, like in the Alsace region of France, obviously in the Mosel in Germany. You know, we needed something, you know, a noble royal grape, because I feel like that, you know,
wine.
Yeah, you know, we needed something that really was emblematic of Black Girl Magic, so royalty. You know what I'm saying?
So expressive and so vibrant.
Yes.
It's an off-dry Riesling, so a lot of people tend to think of like Rieslings as really sweet. This one has just like a little touch of sweetness, but really, really vibrant acidity. To balance it out perfectly, which we think is like very suiting for like the balance of like Black Girl Magic, you know, as a mantra, as a theme for the wine.
So amazing. I mean, again, this is just, but that's what I mean. It's so, when it's real, you don't, it's not work.
No, it's not. It's not.
That is the thing.
It's interesting because like with the question that you were just posing, we started working on Black Girl Magic wines and the Riesling in 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
We launched it in 2018. We launched it at Essence Festival in New Orleans based on like just a lot of like milestones we felt like for Black women in general.
Yeah.
And at Essence Festival or in New Orleans, they had just elected their first Black woman as mayor. So we like took the stage for the opening of Essence Festival. We kind of like unveiled Black Girl Magic as a wine. I think it's the only time we ever like underestimated a little bit.
Yeah.
Like how, you know, how much interest there would be in a wine. We didn't make that much initially. We just thought it would kind of be a commemorative, you know, wine. Really quickly, we learned that there was a lot of
Black Girl Magic out
a
there.
lot of Black Girl Magic. Hey, wanted the wine.
Hey, let me tell you. So I got this email from like the warehouse. So you guys are getting the inside.
Oh my goodness! I already know what you're talking about.
So I got this email, you know, and the person from the warehouse was saying, "Look, you know, we're really sorry, but like there was like a bunch of pallets where people like stole a bunch of your wine," and I'm just like, "Oh, you know, what is it?" And they're like, "Black Girl Magic," and I called her and I was like,
we like
when someone starts stealing and bootlegging your wine, you
like,
know that like you got
y'all
something.
were happy with
Yes, yes.
Y'all ain't got the guns.
No.
Because people don't steal like
you know,
stuff, right?
yeah.
Like the workers, it's like the workers at the warehouse. They were like stealing the wine, so we're like, okay, we're on to something here.
We're like when people want to risk it all,
like you're
risk it all to take your products. Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting is, you know, we kind of launched it, unveiled it in 2018, come 2020, which are talking about the period post, you know, after George Floyd's death, and a lot of Black-owned businesses, you know, started to get some, you know, notoriety or whatever. People were supporting them and promoting them. There was an assumption that we created Black Girl Magic in response to that event, and it's like, no, actually we had worked on it for like 5 years prior, right? Because it is such an important to us. It's such an important sentiment, and it's such a culturally important phrase that we wanted to express through a wine. It just so happens that it was, you know, became very popular during a time where we had all of these other things going on. But we've never created a wine, a brand, a mantra, you know, content, anything in response to any, you know, racially motivated things that might be going on in the world. It's generally, just like we've been talking about, based on our experiences, our family, you know, who we're wanting to pay respects to or celebrate, like with our different products.
And so on that point, you know, like our father's from Camden, Alabama, between Selma and Montgomery. Our grandfather was born in 1885. Our father,
the first born free.
Yeah, our father was the youngest of 12, sharecropped, picked cotton. So we are 250 years from slavery, 90 years from Jim Crow, 45 years of you know, racist property ownership things that stop us from owning property, you know what I'm saying?
Property,
and so this is really paying homage to, Robin and I are able to do what we do because of the people that came before us.
Right.
100% facts, right? So it really was like, the genesis of that was like, the realization prior to 2020, when we started working on it before that, was like, we feel like Black women aren't seen in the wine industry. Mm-hmm. And so it was like a very like, you know what?
We're a statement.
We're going to show mad love because we can't do what we do without people in our direct family and our community.
No, it's true. And at that time, it's just, I do feel like there was, like, I was in a similar position where it's like I was doing my wine and hip hop stuff already. You know, it was like I used it as a way to stay in front of my wine consulting clients. I was never trying to do a podcast to get famous or anything. It was just a loss leader to stay in front of people online that were already working with me. But I was already doing the stuff to bridge cultures. And then I'm a consultant, not really a media dude. So when clients started asking me how to fix this problem, it was just shifting what I was offering in my consultancy, you know? Yeah. So it's just, I think a big part of also the success that we're sharing is being ready when preparation meets opportunity.
Stay ready.
What happened, you know? When you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready.
That's right. We're already ready.
Yeah, no, that was ill. But like with that, there were, and it was also a weird time. People needed to like jump online, things like that.
Yeah.
I was put in an interesting position, and then there were several other people that, organizations, lots of different things sprouted up out of that time. There were initiatives started by companies that were saying, and some people stuck to it, some people didn't. The landscape is just extremely different now. Like, I'd be interested to know what your observations are from that time and the promises to now and what you've actually seen.
I personally was very skeptical. So I'm like, okay, like we'll see. Like y'all are outlining these things, and for a lot of like corporations, it was like big dollars. It was like really aggressive initiatives, and we're like,
yeah, I know. It was like, wow,
yeah,
we finally being heard. It was they gave us Juneteenth.
I know, right? Which, by the way, has been a company holiday in our organization for a long time.
Before this,
so we're like, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Like, we're here for it right now, but like, how confident were we that folks were really going to stick with it? I'll say, in my opinion, I feel like, particularly from a retailer's perspective, so like national accounts, mass retailers, I have been pleasantly surprised that they kept to their goals and their ambitions and those strategies that they laid out. They've stuck to this day and beyond, right? Because there are longer term and permanent ambitions that they set forth. I think even really within wine, I feel like I'm as skeptical as I was. I'm still sort of pleasantly surprised to see how many folks have stuck with it. We assumed that, by September of that year, everybody would have moved on to something else, right?
Was canceled.
Yeah, right. Like they were going to be on to something else. So we're kind of like, I don't know, we'll see. But I think and there's definitely some folks who have dropped off. A lot of, when we're talking about bigger corporations and bigger organizations, like we've seen the DEI folks get laid off, like all of these kind of things. But I think overall, I am surprised at how many have stuck to it and continue those efforts today. I would have discounted a lot of them, to be honest. But I think, overall they're sticking by what they set forth to do. You know? How long ago? What year is this? That was 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
We're in 2023.
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah. If you asked me then, I would have been like, no way. There's no way they're going to keep this up. This is like a fad, right? It's a moment that they're just trying to capitalize on.
But I think though, what I'm optimistic about is I feel like, doesn't matter like your race or ethnicity, where you grew up from, like I definitely see like a big belief shift change demographically in the US, so I think with corporations kind of sticking by what they said and like having like an understanding that like, the next generations of people, despite if you're Black or if you're Latino or if you're Asian, if you're Native American, wherever you're from, where you're kind of perceived a minority in this country, and if you're white and you have, European descent, I feel like there's a big belief shift that's changed and happened and has been sticky. And I just think, future generations of people are more inclined to inclusiveness than exclusiveness.
Damn, yo, she's spending so much bars.
Spitting bars.
When's the album coming?
I know, right? Can I be your agent?
Bars all day on this. I'm telling you.
I think another important thing
It's the wine.
is
It's
the wine.
It's the Cocky Motherf.
That's the sauce.
Cocky. That's her true self coming out.
Right.
But I think another important thing that came from that moment too was an understanding of the value of the consumer and the spend that's equivalent, right?
of
It's
course.
equivalent to like the GDP of Canada, I think, right? For like the black, seriously, for like the black consumer, which was never really entertained from like a business perspective for a lot of large corporations. It was very much, you know, our entire 17 years in wine has been kind of advocating, you know, for this customer and for the value of this customer, which the industry really just didn't want to hear, right?
Right.
Black people don't really drink wine, or they drink, you know, very inexpensive sweet wine.
But I would even just say like minorities in general.
No, I know.
Well, inclusive of that are like all women, but like, you know, Native,
I mean,
Asian,
just
Latino.
That one point is significant, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that, to me, it feels like this is that period of time was the first true acknowledgement of minorities in whatever category being a valued consumer in this space. Prior to that, it was definitely not seen as such. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like, and you know, that obviously leads into some of these commitments and the shifts in the industry, the products, the marketing, the branding, all of the things that for us, it feels like the first time that these consumers are really seen and treated as valuable.
Yeah.
That was our
facts.
challenge. We always stepped into spaces, whether it was within, you know, with retailers, with wholesalers, whatever it is, media, all of these things. We felt like we were always advocating, trying to prove or show, you know, the value of this consumer, which is what drives us, and it wasn't received, you know, as such. But I feel like a turning point, right?
Yeah.
Which I have to believe plays into why a lot of these companies and brands are still continuing with these.
Money talks, baby.
Money talks,
At
right?
the end of the day, it's really inspiring right now.
It is.
Definitely.
And there's, you know, there's a lot of opportunity because I think when you look at demographically what America is today, what it's going to be in 5 years, 10, 15, 20 years, it's a very multicultural society, right? And, you know, a minority majority eventually, right? We're pretty close to that. So I think there is like a real wake-up call for the wine industry to realize that, again, going back to access, wine is this beautiful thing, culture, history, all these things. So now how can we, instead of thinking about it from a context of this is wine, this is how you have to do it, this is how you have to think about it, like here's a person, this is their background, this is their culture, how can we, you know, integrate, supplement wine into
Enhance that.
and enhance that, you know,
Yeah.
versus forcing something. And it's the reality.
Yeah.
It's the future of the
It's
business.
very much a reckoning, which is necessary.
I've
It's
called it the
it's
reckoning.
a reckoning.
I called it a reckoning
Which
so
is
often.
necessary for the acknowledgement to say what has always worked will not work going forward, right? So like once you have that admission and understanding, like we need to look at this differently going forward for the health of the overall industry, for all of wine, right? Then we see what we're seeing now, which is people that are open to new ideas, new concepts, new inputs, cultural context that had not yet been considered in the past, but is now welcome, and the industry is receptive to it, which is new. It's brand new.
It's totally new. It's big. I appreciate it so much.
And here we are.
Here we are. So often I say, I'm like, damn, you know, if it wasn't economical stuff, would they listen? Then I think about it, I'm like, you listening, so you gonna learn this shit anyway. Whatever.
That's right.
But no, it's true. I'm just glad that, like, when I started this business in the way that I did it, it's all about helping to change the perspective, the people's perception on black men in America. You know, I realized that when I came in and people understood I was in the wine industry, no matter how I rolled, the assumptions that people had, and I had to go into rooms where people had a lot of assumptions, but I would stay myself, and who I was a person that actually did love wine, and I realized I was able to change a lot of outlooks that people started with and look, I had ways that I was looking at them too. At the end of the day. So
it goes both ways.
Exactly. So, one is having that understanding that we might both think something about one another that might be off, but two people have to come to it like that, and then there's also the common bond, which so often can be wine, so great space that we're in. I'm so proud, and I'm just like honored to know you guys.
Likewise.
A pretty huge deal.
Likewise.
It's
mutual.
No, definitely. And so I have to ask, what is next for you guys? Seems like you could pretty much do anything. I'd love to know about part 3 of the mini series.
Because y'all got 5. Y'all got one mini series about growing up separately. Then you got one mini series about meeting together. Then you got one mini series about all the crazy stuff in wine.
It's true.
So what's next for you?
There's a few things, but I think the thing that ties them all together is continuing to expand our accessibility and continuing to expand our reach with our gospel about wine and being a place for everybody to come and enjoy. So I think a couple of the things that we have, this year, next year, are one, going into internationally, right? So we're going outside of the U.S. and to the continent, Caribbean, Bahamas, other countries, which is, up until now, it's been, people forget winemaking is still agricultural, right? So it's there are so many grapes, it takes a while to make wine, but we've been able to scale to a place where we can now, meet the needs of the market in the U.S. and now we can look at, some of these other places where we think our wines would be a great fit. So that's exciting for us.
And I think a big milestone was MLK Day this year.
Was that the keys?
Yes.
The keys, I would jingle them right now.
Yes. We acquired a property in Carneros in Napa Valley. Yeah.
Lovely.
And
God. That's gonna be crazy.
That's big.
Oh wow. I can't even I'm trying to process the level of stuff that you can do there. You think about the places that people are going there and the difference that they'll get when they come here is
well, I think that's about it, right? Expanding the idea of what does it mean to visit wine country, right? What does the wine experience mean? What does the tasting experience look like traditionally? And not saying that it's good or bad necessarily, but we'll be able to expand that. What does that experience look like? Who comes? Who enjoys it? And maybe it's not as traditional, as what, and challenge people to think about the experience differently, right? Some people may think oh, that's not for me. I'm not going to Napa to do wine tasting.
Right.
Oh, but maybe there's this other, vibe that might be more in line, with me
dope.
and how I want to spend my Saturday afternoon or what have you that we can provide. So we're excited about that.
And it literally takes us back to nearly 18 years ago.
Yeah.
When we first started and this vision of how would we do it?
It's brought some new life, reinvigorated.
Just a different, take, a different, our own vision on what that experience can be like.
That is so cool. I'm excited. Y'all know.
Well, you'll be there.
I'm trying. Don't forget about the little people. That is cool. It might be a little tough to get an appointment after a certain point.
No. You know
somebody. You know some sisters. You good. You good.
Oh gosh, damn. I'm excited to come back and do the part 2.
You have to.
I'm so
play with us.
appreciative.
I know it's kind of an
that-
obligation.
I know.
I signed up for it now.
See, the
Don't
thing
play.
is, we're actually family now. You
Yes,
know what I'm saying?
yes.
Like you're in my kitchen.
I'm in the crib. I'm
Yes,
at the crib.
yeah.
you know?
In my kitchen,
I'm showing
we're
up again for
officially family.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know.
All right. Right here.
But I'll bring some vino, I promise.
Okay.
Not that
Appreciate
there's
it.
a lack of any, I'm sure.
Yes.
But nah, man, thank you guys so much for having
Thank you.
me. This was
you.
better than I could have ever expected.
Really?
It's amazing when, like, you know, you see people online and then, like, you see them in person and they're like kind of quiet or not as cool, or the pictures are really the amazing part. But I actually think that everything that's out there about you guys don't even do service for how amazing you
thank
actually
you.
are. So
Thank you.
Distribute this widely.
Yeah. Let the people know. Yeah.
well, thank you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
so much. It's only
Cheers.
right to end off with a toast with some Black girl.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Thank you.
Peace. All right. Amazing. Thank you.
All right.